This episode gently references the COVID years, no debate, and you're welcome to skip if today isn't the day. There was a moment in the COVID years when it felt like the world became smaller, not in a cozy way, in a lonely way, a quiet street, a grocery store with half-empty shelves, a phone call you didn't want to answer because you already knew what it might be, and then that strange kind of silence, the kind that doesn't feel peaceful, the kind that feels like you're holding your breath for months. If you lived through that time, and you did, maybe you remember how the smallest things could knock you off balance. A headline, a comment from a family member, a look from a stranger when you wore a mask, or when you didn't, a friend who stopped calling back, a funeral on a screen. And what made it so hard wasn't only the virus. It was the feeling that nothing was steady anymore. Like the ground underneath your life had shifted. So tonight I want to offer something simple. Not a promise that you'll never feel shaken again. Not some unrealistic idea that nothing can affect you. But something more human than that. A way to be less shaken. A way to be steady, even when the world is not. Buddhism has a word for this kind of steadiness. Not perfection, not numbness, not pretending. Just a mind that can stay with life as it is without breaking apart. And we're going to anchor this episode in the COVID period, not to reopen wounds, but to gently understand them. Because for many people, especially in midlife and beyond those years, weren't just a crisis. They were a mirror that showed what we cling to, what we fear, what we avoid, and what we might finally be ready to let go of. So let's begin where the Buddha's path begins, not with answers, with suffering. 1. The suffering we don't talk about. In the early months of the pandemic, spring of 2020, there was a particular kind of pain that didn't show up on charts. It was the pain of distance. Not just physical distance, emotional distance. You could go days without being touched, without hugging a grandchild, without shaking a hand, without sitting next to someone at a table. And you might have been fine on paper. Roof over your head, food in the pantry, a job that continued, or a retirement check that arrived. But inside, there was something else. A low hum of anxiety, a heaviness in the chest, a mind that kept scanning for danger. And if you're in that 45 to 70 range, maybe you felt something specific. You had already lived through things. Loss, stress, disappointment, maybe divorce, maybe illness. And still, COVID hit differently. Because it didn't only take away plans. It took away the sense that the world makes sense. It brought sickness, aging, and death to the front door. Not as concepts, as headlines, as phone calls, as empty chairs. In Buddhist language, that's the first noble truth. Not a bleak statement, just an honest one. Life includes suffering. And the real problem isn't that suffering exists. The real problem is what we do next. Because when suffering shows up, we usually do one of two things. We either try to control everything, or we collapse. And COVID, for many of us, revealed both. 2. A human story. Siddhartha and the 4 sights. Before he became the Buddha, he was a man with a name, a family, and a nervous system like yours. The stories say he was sheltered from hardship for a long time, protected from seeing the sharp edges of life. And then, one day he left the walls of his comfortable world, and he saw what the tradition calls the 4 sights. Someone old, someone sick, someone dead, and then a wandering spiritual seeker. Whether you take those as literal history or symbolic truth, the point lands. Because in the COVID years, many of us had our own 4 sights. A neighbor suddenly gone, a friend in the hospital, a parent aging faster than expected, a familiar place, church, a cafe, a workplace closed and quiet, and then sometimes the 4th sight, a person or a moment reminding us there might be another way to live, not a way that avoids death, not a way that guarantees safety, but a way that meets life with clarity. Tonight I want to share 10 principles, inspired by Buddhist teachings, 10 handholds for the mind, not rules, not commandments, just ways of looking, ways of holding experience, so the world doesn't pull you under so easily. And as we walk through them, keep COVID in the background, like a landscape, because that landscape was real, and many hearts are still walking through it. 10 principles for being less shaken. Principle 1. Remember what matters most. During COVID, many people discovered something surprising. When the world gets uncertain, the mind starts asking one urgent question: what actually matters? Not what looks good, not what impresses others. What matters when time feels fragile. Some people realized they'd been living on autopilot, working too hard, staying too busy, avoiding silence because silence felt uncomfortable. And then suddenly, there was nothing but silence. In Buddhism, there's a quiet emphasis on purpose, not ambition, but inner direction. A sense of, what is my life for, really? Not as a grand project, more like a small compass you can carry in your pocket. During the pandemic, purpose could be simple: to show up for your family with kindness, to keep your mind steady, to live honestly, to not let fear turn you into someone you don't recognize. If you ever felt scattered during those years, it might not have been because you were weak. It might have been because you were trying to hold too many things at once without a center. So here's a gentle practice. In the morning before the news, before the phone, one quiet sentence. Something like, today I want to live with patience. Today I want to keep my heart open. Today I want to be a steady presence. Not perfect, just oriented. Because when the mind has a direction, it suffers less from every gust of wind. Principle 2. Don't hand your remote control to other people. COVID turned everyone into a commentator. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a theory. Everyone had a strong feeling about what you were doing. And suddenly even simple choices felt loaded. Visits, masks, vaccines, boundaries, gatherings. For many families, this wasn't just stressful. It was heartbreaking. Because disagreement wasn't abstract. It had faces. People you love. People you respected. People who suddenly sounded like strangers. A Buddhist principle here is simple. You can't always control what happens. But you can learn not to give your inner life away. Not in a cold way. In a protective way. It's like realizing, my peace is precious. And maybe you remember moments when you got pulled into a spiral. A comment online. A relative's remark. A coworker's tone. And your whole day became tight. What Buddhism suggests is not never feel hurt. It's notice the moment you consent to being hijacked. That moment is usually tiny. A breath. A flicker of heat. And if you can catch that moment, you can say quietly inside, I don't have to take this personally. I don't have to answer right now. I can respond from steadiness. Not passive, not weak, just self-respecting. Principle 3. When you're insulted, pause before you drink the poison. In stressful times, people become rough. They get sharp. They get impatient. They say things they regret. And during COVID, plenty of people were running on fumes. Grief, isolation, fear, job stress, health worries. So if you were snapped at, criticized, dismissed, or blamed, you weren't alone. Buddhist wisdom often points out something painfully obvious. When someone throws anger at you and you pick it up, now you're carrying it. You might be right, you might have the facts, but your nervous system still pays the price. So, the practice is not be a doormat. The practice is pause. A pause is not weakness. A pause is a boundary. A pause says, I'm not going to let your storm become my weather. Sometimes, the most powerful response is not a perfect sentence. It's a breath. It's walking to the other room. It's saying I need a moment. Because the goal isn't winning. The goal is not losing yourself. Principle 4. If people speak ill of you, let your life do the talking. One of the quieter pains of the pandemic was social. People judged each other. Groups turned on each other. Friendships cracked. And you might have discovered that people can misunderstand you completely and still speak with confidence. That's a hard thing to accept. But Buddhism invites another kind of strength. Let your actions be your reputation, not your defense, not your argument, your actions. If you were caring for a vulnerable parent, you didn't need to justify your caution. If you were protecting your mental health, you didn't need to apologize for boundaries. If you were grieving, you didn't need to perform resilience. There's a deep relief in realizing, I don't have to manage every opinion about me, because trying to manage opinions is endless. but living with integrity. That's simple, hard sometimes, but simple. You do what you believe is right. You correct what needs correcting. You make amends when needed. And then you let the rest move through. Some people will misunderstand you. That's part of life. The question is, can you stay true without becoming bitter? Principle 5. Guard the mind, like you'd guard a garden. During COVID, the mind had more access than ever. More news, more social media, more opinions, more fear. And a lot of us discovered, the mind becomes what it consumes. If you feed it anxiety all day, it grows anxiety. If you feed it outrage, it grows outrage. Buddhism compares the mind to a field. Seeds get planted. Some become weeds. Some become nourishing crops. And in the pandemic, many people accidentally planted weeds all day long. Not because they wanted to, because they were scared. So guarding the mind isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about being honest with what certain inputs do to your nervous system. For some people, that meant setting limits, not reading headlines before bed, not doom-scrolling first thing in the morning, not having the same argument for the 100th time. And here's a gentle reframe. You don't have to solve the whole world to care about it. You can care and still protect your mind. A small practice. Before you open an app, ask, is this feeding steadiness or feeding agitation? No judgment. Just awareness. Principle 6. Fear and shame are stories the mind repeats. COVID brought fear. That's obvious. Fear of illness. Fear for older parents. Fear of being alone in a hospital room. Fear of what happens if. But it also brought something quieter. Shame. People felt shame about being afraid. Shame about not handling it better. Shame about choices they made. Shame about choices they didn't make. And shame has a particular voice. It says, you're not doing enough. You're doing it wrong. You're failing. Buddhist practice doesn't fight shame with pep talks. It does something more radical. It sees shame as a mental event, a weather pattern, not your identity. If you ever felt ashamed during those years, maybe for how you reacted or what you couldn't control, you can hold this gently. A feeling is not a verdict. A fearful thought is not a prophecy. The mind tells stories when it's trying to feel safe. And the practice is to notice the story, without becoming the story. A simple phrase can help. Ah, fear is here. Ah, shame is here. Not I am fear. Not I am shame. Just, it's here. And like weather, it passes, especially when you stop feeding it with self-attack. Principle 7. Let difficult people become teachers without staying in harm. This one is delicate. Because during COVID, some people were not just difficult. Some were cruel. Some were reckless. Some were dismissive of real pain. So, let's be clear. Seeing someone as a teacher does not mean tolerating harm. It doesn't mean staying in toxicity. It means something smaller. Every interaction reveals something. If someone triggered you during those years, maybe it revealed a fear of being powerless, a need to be understood, a habit of people-pleasing, a deep grief you hadn't named. A teacher isn't always a wise person. Sometimes, the teacher is the mirror, and the lesson might be, I need boundaries. I need to stop explaining myself to people who aren't listening. I need to protect my energy. I need to accept that not everyone will come with me. In Buddhism, growth often looks like this. Not changing other people, changing your relationship to your own mind, because that's the only part you truly carry everywhere. Principle 8. Build an ethical center you can return to. In unstable times, people look for something solid, and many of us discovered that what feels solid isn't always money or plans. It's character. It's being able to sleep at night, because you didn't betray yourself. Buddhism often emphasizes basic ethics not as moral superiority but as inner shelter. A life that causes less harm tends to feel less haunted. During COVID, ethics could be tender and practical. Telling the truth kindly, not spreading rumors, not using fear to control others, are choosing care when you could. And if you made mistakes like most humans did, ethics also includes repair, apologizing, changing course, trying again. An ethical center is like the roots of a tree. When storms come, the tree still bends, but it doesn't uproot so easily. If you want a simple question to hold, will this action make my heart heavier or lighter? That's often all the guidance you need. Principle 9. Live with nature's rhythm, not against it. COVID didn't just change society. It changed time. Days blurred. Weeks felt the same. Seasons arrived quietly. And many people had to face something they'd avoided for years. The body has limits. Life has seasons. Aging in particular became more visible. Some of us realized we were no longer young enough to outrun certain truths. Buddhism doesn't treat impermanence as a gloomy concept. It treats it as reality. And reality, when accepted, becomes less frightening. Think of a tree in strong wind. It doesn't insult the wind. It doesn't argue. It bends. And sometimes bending is the only way not to break. Living with nature's rhythm might mean resting when you're tired, admitting when you're lonely, letting a season be a season, not demanding that grief hurry up. If you lost someone during the pandemic or lost a version of life you loved, this is especially important. The heart has its own timing. You don't get over it on a schedule. You learn to carry it with less strain. Principle 10. Gratitude as a lantern, not a cover-up. Sometimes people talk about gratitude like it's a denial, like you're supposed to smile through pain. That's not what I mean. In Buddhism, gratitude can be something quieter, a lantern. Not bright enough to erase the darkness, just bright enough to help you take the next step. During COVID, some people found gratitude in tiny things. A neighbor leaving soup on the porch. A nurse holding a hand when family couldn't enter. A friend who called every week without fail. A sunrise you noticed because you finally slowed down. Gratitude doesn't say, everything is fine. It says, not everything is lost. And for a nervous system that's been living in fear, that matters. A simple practice if it fits. At night, 3 small things. Not impressive things. Small things. Warm tea. A safe bed. A kind message. A moment of laughter. It's not magic. It's training the mind to remember that life is not only threat, bringing it home. What COVID taught us about the mind. If we step back, the pandemic years gave many of us a painful education. We learned that control is limited. We learned that plans can vanish. We learned that people can disappoint us. But we also learned something else. We learned the mind can become a battleground, or a refuge. And Buddhism doesn't ask you to become unfeeling. It doesn't ask you to become untouchable in the sense of cold. It offers a more compassionate possibility. To feel what you feel, without being owned by it. To grieve, without drowning. To respond, without being dragged. To live, without clinging so tightly that your hands cramp. A closing reflection. Open-ended, not perfect. If you're listening tonight and you still feel the aftershocks of that time, the loneliness, the anxiety, the grief, there's nothing wrong with you. A lot happened, and some of it lodged in the body. So maybe the gentle question isn't, how do I make sure nothing affects me? Maybe the question is, how do I come back to myself again and again when life affects me? Because life will affect you. That's not failure. That's being human. But you can learn to return. To breath, to values, to a calmer response, to a mind you're tending like a garden. And if you can return even 1% more often than before, that's real transformation. Not dramatic, not perfect, just lighter. Soft pause. Before we end, you might take one slow breath with me, in and out. And if you'd like one quiet sentence you can carry into the rest of your day. May I meet what comes with a steady heart. Not a heart that never breaks, a heart that knows how to mend. Outro music begins gentle. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode felt supportive, you can save it for a day when the mind feels noisy. And until next time, take it slow. Be kind to your nervous system. And keep returning softly back to your own inner home.